real man doesn't deliver on a Sunday.
If you don't like that, you don't like NBA basketball.
Anthony for three. Bang! J.R. Smith! We just saw men fly. LeBron James with no regard for human life.
Cleveland! This is for you!
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the special episode of Coast to Coast. It was rivalries week in the NBA this weekend. And on Saturday night, we had three really good matchups, and we are going to be discussing them right now. Joining me, as always, Christian Nambu. Thanks so much to everyone for making this your first listen for NBA coverage. This is a sign of things to come. We've watched all the games last night, and now we're going to be reviewing them. Another way that we are expanding our horizons of NBA coverage. So make sure to leave a comment, like, subscribe wherever you're getting your podcasts, and let us know what you think. So, Chris, let's open up. First game of the night. Denver 76ers. What did you think?
Dude, that was a matchup everyone was waiting for, and that absolutely delivered. I know that you're definitely a happy guy because I know you've been a little bit more on Jokic's side this year, but Embiid's always been your guy. He just put in a masterful performance. He's got to be the first person we talk about. Joel Embiid, first half, somehow quietly just had like a 20-10 first half, and then capped it off, nearly scoring 50 and just dominating down the stretch. How did you feel he made his case for the MVP this season, or at least just to be a starter on the Eastern Conference All-Star team? I mean, putting up a performance like that.
Oh yeah, I mean that was a complete slap in the face to not being a starter. He's going up against a guy who's in the lead race for MVP. You could tell he had that chip on his shoulder. First half, he very quietly went about his 19 points, and then the second half, he just completely took over. 28 points, hitting threes, absolutely dominating Nikola Jokic inside. Jokic could not deal with him at all. Not that anyone in the league really can in the paint, but he showed all of his best qualities, and he showed that his scoring ability and his rebounding ability can go toe to toe with the best in the entire league.
Yeah, and I think the way that I frame this game after watching it is how the 76ers responded. Because the first half, the Nuggets just looked like they were going to run away with it. They had almost, what was a 13-point lead, 72 points, and they were getting every look they wanted. Jamal Murray was getting good spots whenever he wanted to. Jokic was posting up and getting people open as he wanted to. Aaron Gordon looks great, and he had a great game throughout the whole game. I think the 76ers did a good job to neutralize him, but I think first half to second half, the 76ers really did well to respond and make adjustments, especially how they were choosing to cover Jokic. And for a team that we're always getting on for Doc Rivers not making a lot of changes and them folding under pressure, I think they responded in a big highlight night where the whole country is watching. Everybody's watching Jokic and Embiid. And it wasn't just Embiid who showed up. The team really showed up to play. And I don't know who you want to start with, but I thought this was a great all-around team game from the 76ers, not just a testament to Embiid's MVP race this year.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest takeaway from this game. I think the adjustments that the 76ers made defensively in the second half compared to the first. Denver had 73 points in the first half. They were getting every look that they wanted. It felt like they went on a run where they were just scoring off every single play unless they made a mistake themselves. Then in the second half, they made the adjustments. They put Tucker onto Jokic. They had Embiid covering on the rotations. They had him covering in the paint to trying to neutralize Gordon that little bit more. They got the doubles. There was a few times where Jokic was posting up and the 76ers came in and got steals. That wasn't happening in the first half. And then they hold them to 46 points in the second half. That's a big change between the two quarters. They didn't score more than 30 points in either the third or the fourth quarter. And that allowed Philadelphia to eat into that 15-point lead and ultimately get the W.
Yeah. I thought that that coverage, that was a little thing. They pushed Embiid out onto Gordon, and Gordon, who was working the baseline like crazy off ball. Embiid just hung out in the dunker spot, did not let Gordon get that cut. And as soon as Jokic stepped into the paint, I mean, he was there to defend. As soon as Jokic was trying to get a cutter, Embiid was there. They effectively cut off any off-ball cuts to the rim, and they cut off Gordon's number one weapon, playing off-ball, which is cutting backdoor. And has been one of Jokic's biggest weapons as he's posting on the mid-post. And Tucker, I mean, dude, this guy is he's just a brick wall. I that's one of like the little fun things to watch in the NBA is especially in the positionless league that we're in. A guy like PJ Tucker, who is barely 6'5". I don't know if he's actually 6'5", but this guy posting up on defending Jokic on the block, and just unbelievable. He gave him a tough time. Jokic could not comfortably get down low every time. He had him a few times, but you saw a couple plays where Tobias Harris was able to sneak up and strip the ball, and other players are able to make him pick up his dribble. I think that the team defense overall was able to make him uncomfortable. He had 7 turnovers in this game. And in a game where after the first half, you're expecting him to come out with a massive triple-double and just look as dominant, they really muted Jokic's playmaking in the second half, and that never happens. Like, that rarely ever happens. What was it, 15 games this year where Jokic gets a triple-double and they win? Which, first of all, 15 triple-doubles, then 15-0 on that. That's pretty unbelievable. So they stopped him in a game where it really mattered. And hats off to Doc Rivers. That was a good adjustment. And hats off to PJ Tucker and their whole team for staying strong. And we just quickly mentioned Harris. Tobias Harris, we'll give him, we're not going to give him his flowers. We'll give him a flower. After going scoreless in the first half, he really stepped up in the second.
Yeah, that was a big change in the game offensively for Philadelphia. I mean, obviously he has 0 points at the half. It looks pretty bad, especially when 4 or 5 Denver starters were in double digits. But then he stepped up with some big shots. He made some big plays inside. He hit a couple of big threes, and that was a key component of Philly getting this win. It wasn't just all Joel Embiid. Harris really stepped up with some big shots. Obviously, Harden didn't take too many shots last night. He was more feeding the ball. He had his 13 assists, but it's still a fairly efficient shooting night for him. But they're going to need the trio firing on all cylinders, like in the second half last night, if they're going to really chase down the Celtics and make that push and be in the best position possible going into playoff time. But I loved what Embiid said in the interview after. You can tell it's on his mind. He's just saying he's happy just contributing to his team's winning. He wasn't worrying about being an all-star starter. He wasn't worrying about MVP, just contributing to winning. And then he just says, I want to be healthy. I don't want any surprise injuries come playoff time. I feel like I have a big run in me. I don't want any injuries. That's his mentality. You know, he's got that chip on his shoulder. He's hearing what people are saying. He knows that he can be the guy on the biggest stage. He showed it last night. Now the next step is showing it in the playoffs, and hopefully we get to see that this year.
Yeah, and that's you touched on James Harden scoring in the second half. I think, you know, getting away from all the positive we're talking about the 76ers, and there was, especially in the second half, and staying with Embiid, just talking about the fact that he went 10 of 14 in the second half to respond to a pretty inefficient first half. Harden, though, I think that's the only takeaway from this where, you know, that's the next step, is consistent production from your stars when it matters. And when Joel Embiid scoring 28 points in the second half, and Tobias Harris goes 6 of 7 to score 14 points, and you get Niang going 3 of 4, just in crazy moments here. I mean, Niang scoring with like less than a second left, and a just completely broken play where the Nuggets are regaining momentum, and then he just pulls them back. He had some really key threes in this game with only 9 points in the second half. Those were, every single one of those points felt way bigger than they were. But Harden, only 3 points, 5 attempts. He went 1 for 5, 0 of 3 on his attempts. And the Nuggets, you know, they were completely okay to put whoever on an island with him, whether it was Zeke Naji, whether it was Jamal Murray. Very happy with Gordon. I mean, Gordon, we'll get to the Nuggets in a little bit, but Gordon's defense on everybody was just unbelievable. But you got to see more from Harden in a playoff situation, you know, especially in the Eastern Conference. If you're facing this, if this is just about the Celtics, like we talked about last pod, Can they rely on Harden to do more? To do more. He didn't look confident in getting to his shots in situations where, I think you don't want him to necessarily step away from being a primary playmaker. You got to talk about the fact he had 7 assists in that second half as well. So it's not just about the scoring, but he's got to be aggressive too if teams are just going to dare him to shoot, because they were doubling Embiid. And there were times where it felt like the game was going to slip away because they couldn't get any good shots out of Embiid posting up. And that's where you expect Harden to counter that. Harden's supposed to go one-on-one, and you got to double somebody. But that's not the dynamic that they've created here. But as a team, they got the win without Harden's scoring.
Yeah, for sure. And then what about Denver then? What did you think about their performance? I think obviously it's a negative. They couldn't pick up what would have been a big win, a big statement win. But I really enjoyed what I saw from Aaron Gordon, his constant movement on both ends of the floor, especially we saw it in the first half on the defensive end. It made a really, really big impact. It forced the 76ers to be quite inefficient. And you see it on offense too. He's just always moving. So Jokic, he can find anyone on the court at any time. And with the way Gordon moves, he's going to get a lot of easy looks. The way he can cut, he's going to get a lot of easy looks. And just the way that he's improved his own game, when the ball's in his hands, he's capable of making a move and taking a shot inside.
Yeah, that was a big thing for Gordon and for Murray, is that what you didn't see, the difference between these two teams in the first half, all they did really is run through, pick and roll through Embiid and Harden, and run through Embiid on post-ups. And the Nuggets had answers for that. And defensively, it was by committee. Everyone was doing their job there, especially Gordon. But I think to have Gordon as a playmaker, to have Jamal Murray as a playmaker, to have both those guys put the ball in their hands, even when Jokic is on the court, there's just so much more you have to worry about. And especially the sets that they run for Jokic, you think the ball's getting to him as he's coming off a handoff, and then it's going to someone else. He's screening. He's such a good screener. And everyone knows how to screen off each other on this team. They have such good chemistry. So to be able to put the ball in Gordon's hands and have Jamal Murray and Nikola Jokic running sets off each other, and then Aaron Gordon just decides to take it himself, like that just gives you so many options. And I think that's such an underrated part of his game, is you can put the ball in his hands and he can attack a switch. So if they're trying to preserve whoever's defending Jamal Murray, whoever's defending Jokic, and he gets a smaller guy, like he is such a strong guy in the paint, he's able to get whatever he wants. And I think credit to him. If we're basing Andrew Wiggins' all-star status last year on a rising team, on the best team in the West, and playing that kind of role, I think Aaron Gordon deserves that same sort of recognition. Like, not to say we want to continue that precedent necessarily, but I think the hype is at least deserved. And Aaron Gordon has played a massive role in so many different ways for this team, not just as a rebounder or as just a defender. Like, he's been everything that this team has needed from him besides that.
Yeah, and let's hope maybe he can continue just for this year, so we get to see some Aaron Gordon in the dunk contest as well. I mean, that's what he said. Put me in the All-Star game, I'll do the dunk contest. So I think we'd all be happy to see that. On Murray, I think it was, especially in the first half, it was great to see him getting to his spots and making his shots and just looking really comfortable out there. And then in the third, without Jokic, you saw him be able to take the lead, and that second unit looked so much better than it was last year. It wasn't just, oh God, what are we going to do now that Jokic isn't on the floor? Murray was there. Were you a little bit concerned when he seemed to be pulling up, and it was at the end of the third, start of the fourth, and they left him out there? You have to assume that it wasn't anything too bad that they wouldn't have taken him out, because obviously they know they need to protect him, but you hope that they would play that smart and they would have taken him out if it was anything too major.
Yeah, that tweak, we'll see. Like, I didn't see if they talked about it afterwards, but he stayed out there and he definitely looked a lot less aggressive. And I think that was another key to this, is that, he wasn't attacking as aggressively. And that's a huge thing, man. When you're injured and you get those little tweaks, you're not going to be as confident getting to the rim and being as explosive. And he wasn't He wasn't breaking down the defense like he was in the first half after he tweaked his knee like that. But I think that also credit 76ers defense. I mean, cutting off those lanes and cutting off the paint entirely. So it was a combination of those two. But another guy who kind of disappeared, and maybe he just didn't get enough looks, because in the fourth quarter, Michael Porter Jr. had 0 points. He only took one shot from three, and he only got in really at the end of the game. Played 6 minutes in the fourth. The whole game, I mean, he was on fire. 7-11, 5 for 9 from three, 20 points. I mean, honestly, didn't do a whole lot outside of that. But I mean, that's his job, just to shoot. And when you weren't getting a whole lot from Jokic in the post, you weren't getting a whole lot from putting the ball in Murray's hands, it would have been nice to have that option and bend the defense a little bit, because you're not bending the defense from getting in the paint in the fourth there. So why not just try and see what you can do with Porter? Because I mean, he was really, I mean, it looked like it was just shooting practice out there. Like, no one was really bothering his shot. He was confidently getting there. And when a shooter like that's getting in a roll, just like keep going with it. So it was tough to see him just end with 20 points in 3 quarters and not contribute in the fourth when they really, really needed him. But I thought he had a good game up until that point, not getting.
Yeah, for sure. It almost felt like he kind of vanished for the entire second half. I know he actually got 8 points in the third quarter, but it was the way that he was playing, and each 3-pointer just seemed so smooth and it's so in your face when he got those ones in the first half. And then I remember he pulled up for that 3-pointer in the fourth quarter. The one in the fourth quarter, and I was kind of thinking, oh shit, he's still playing here? I'd almost forgotten, especially when Murray was kind of slowing down that little bit. You think, surely get MPJ in this game and get him some shots. He's got the hot hand tonight. Why would you not do that when Jokic isn't at his all elite best? Murray is kind of slowing down that little bit. MPJ's got to be the third option there, especially with the form he was playing with in that game.
Yeah, and they really dried up from three after that too. I mean, that first half, they were 10 of 17 from three. Second half, 4 of 17. Big difference for them. They were really stretching out the floor. And I think this is a testament to that. The 76ers have a lot more. They have a lot more to offer here. And apologies, my internet is wacky here. My internet's not used to recording on a Sunday morning. It's an easy Sunday morning. One last guy I want to shout out though, but before we move on from this game, Zeke Naji. We have not talked about him at all. He's not done anything crazy this year, but a really skilled big for the Nuggets, especially with DeAndre Jordan just not looking like a real player anymore. You think that the center position is a very big, important position of need for the Nuggets to have some depth there. He played really well. I want to give him a shout out because like a guy who is going to face up against Embiid and 76ers, he showed a lot of guts playing in the post against Embiid for a long stretch in the first half, and that was a part of a bench squad that really frustrated Embiid and forced him to make some ugly turnovers and just forced the 76ers offense to not look good. And Najee switching out into the perimeter, playing in the drop against Embiid, playing in the post against Embiid, and then looking skillful, hitting shots from outside and moving the ball well. Like he's a good player. He's a young guy that he's getting confident. I think he's a guy that Nuggets fans will appreciate this. But I think he's a solid big off the bench, and hopefully they keep him. Hopefully he continues to develop there because I see him being a impactful player in the playoffs for them if this is how he plays against 76ers and Embiid.
Yeah, for sure. So final word on that then. The 76ers, they picked up a statement win. Did they make you believe a little bit more?
Oh yeah. And I especially coming back from such a abysmal first half. Not even abysmal for like they played fine in the first half, but to be put in a hole like that by the Nuggets, like you just assume the Nuggets are just going to keep rolling, but they responded in a huge way, and they did it with room for improvement. They did it with room for improvement from Harden, so I believe in that, and I believe too in narratives. And MVP conversations are on narratives, and I know it's one game, and I still would objectively vote for Jokic, but to see the matchup between them, I think that when you look at dominance, when you look at narratives, when you look at storylines, Embiid really made an important note here. Hey, I just went toe to toe. I went 1-on-1, and look at the outcome.
And I freaking dominated.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to the poor old Nets and Knicks. I guess we have to talk a bit on them. A disappointing one for the Knicks, mainly because obviously just the Nets were not at full strength and they just went off the charts from 22 3-pointers, shooting 55% as a team. Kyrie Irving's playmaking throughout the whole game was very impressive. The unselfishness of the entire team, the ball movement. I think they scored like 3 or 4 baskets where the ball touched everyone's hand at least.
Yeah.
And then Kyrie just goes red hot. Kyrie closer, fourth quarter, 21 points. Just absolutely unbelievable. Really impressive performance from the Brooklyn Nets, but obviously disappointed for the Knicks.
Yeah, I think it's not fair to necessarily even talk about it from a Knicks perspective, because I think obviously there are games where you're gonna have takeaways from it. You're gonna see things that need to be fixed. And I think there were some things on the defensive end for the Knicks, but I think this is mostly a game about the Nets. I mean, the Nets just played a perfect game. You watch this start to finish, the ball movement, 31 assists to the Knicks 19. The way that they knew where the weak spots were for the Knicks, they attacked those spots, knew the defense was going to cave, and immediately kicked it out to a shooter. They had a great game plan from the beginning, and for a team of shooters, they move the ball incredibly well. And I think that's again a testament to the coaching, a testament to what they're doing, and a testament to Kyrie Irving. I mean, he had an amazing game with his 21 points in the fourth quarter. But it wasn't a game that he took over. It wasn't a Kyrie Irving versus the Knicks. It was, Kyrie Irving let other playmakers do their job. He let the flow of the offense work out. And that's something, again, like we talked about the Nets and how they've really turned things around in terms of chemistry, in terms of defense, and in terms of offense. The way that things just look organic right now, and the way that the team is working together and flowing, it's really impressive. I mean, he didn't have to force the issue. This team put together an amazing performance organically on their own.
Yeah, for sure. And the most impressive part was the first half. Royce O'Neal played some fairly decent lockdown defense on Julius Randle, who's the hot guy for the Knicks, and they continuously were going ISO for Randle inside, and Royce O'Neal came out on top of that battle. He also went 3 of 5 from 3 in that first half. They were able to match the Knicks on the board, which obviously is extremely disappointing for the Knicks because they had the size overall. They should have been dominating the boards, but the Nets impressively were able to match them, especially in the first half. They hit their 11 threes, and then they had 30 points off the bench. Like, that's really impressive without having any guys coming off the bench that you would think, oh, he's a legit, like, spark plug elite scorer coming off the bench, but they still had 30 points, and that was the big difference in the first half. The Knicks obviously played more to their strengths in the second half. They really started to dominate in the paint. That's where they got pretty much all their points. I think they finished, it was like they were plus 30 in scoring in the paint, but the Nets were plus 30 in scoring from 3. So in the second half especially, it kind of went, right, we'll score 2 and then you'll score 3. So we'll see how it works out at the end. And ultimately it worked out in the Nets' favor. The 3 points beats 2, in case you didn't know.
Yeah, I mean, the simple math, just like it's hard for teams like the Knicks when you're not an elite defense. And I think that's what we can talk about for the Knicks is the Nets just completely collapsed them all game long. The help defense felt way too aggressive. And I don't know if this is a scheme problem. I don't know if that's what Tibbs wanted to do. I mean, Tibbs looks incredibly, to be fair, he looks incredibly frustrated when anyone scores. I mean, it could be like Steph Curry hitting a triple team 3-pointer. He'd still be pissed that he got it in. But I think that having so many young guys out there, I mean, they're giving a lot of burn to Jericho Sims, giving a lot of burn to to Grimes, played 37 minutes, which is good. Like, we're happy that happened. Seeing McBride get some minutes too. And the minutes that they were out there together, Grimes and McBride, it just felt like they were getting cooked.
Mm-hmm.
And I think in general too, like their communication on defense, regardless of who was out there in general, was not great. That there are a lot of heads turning on rotations, a lot of over helping, and then turning around not knowing where the help was going. Like, there wasn't a second rotation, and that's how they got 22 of 43s. Like, for a first half, for the Knicks to go 7 of 14 from three, like, good. That's pretty good. But then you look over and, man, you let the Nets hit, what is it, 11-21 in one half? Like, that, you're just not going to survive that. And that, I think that's like the theme of the year, where the Knicks can't play consistent defense, especially from the perimeter. And that's something that, like, we've always wanted to hang their hat on that, because it's a Tibbs team, but they just haven't done it.
Yeah, it's slowly, like, obviously that first year Tibbs, when they made the return to the playoffs and Julius Randle was most improved player, their defense was their big thing that year. The 2 years since, it's slowly gone down. I think they're right in the middle of the pack at the moment. But last night was just really poor. That there was no real period in the entire game where they were stopping the three. Yeah, the Nets missed a couple of threes, but they were still getting their looks, no problem at all. It's tough when they've got really good shooters. You got Kyrie Irving, you've got Seth Curry, you've got Joe Harris. Watanabe is going to make his shots. Russ O'Neal's going to make some shots. But you gotta do more. That's just the main thing. You look at that Knicks performance, you say you have got to do more. Grimes, it's good to see him getting minutes. It's good to see Tibbs showing a bit of faith in some of the younger guys. But at the same time, he is still such a raw talent. He's still very, very anxious when he gets on the ball on the offensive end. He still struggles a bit with the communication and just making the right rotations and that on the defensive end. Sims, I liked. I like his athleticism. I like his ability to move his feet on both ends of the floor. But he's going to have to become a more elite rebounder if he's going to become a serious rotation player for his entire career in the NBA. He's solid on the offensive boards, but he's still not the guy you have enough faith in to grab boards for your team as your lead center. And there was a few times last night where he just kind of got slightly bumped and missed rebounds that he really should have been taken. I think that could come because he's very, very athletic. He's very, very big. He's only going to get stronger. So I think that will come. But those are kind of the weaknesses you see. And then on the offensive end, Brunson struggled in the first half. He obviously he was better in the second, but I like what I saw from him. But then when you look at Randle and Barrett, what Barrett did off ball last night on the offensive end, I thought was good.
Mm-hmm.
And then to start the third, he obviously made a few good plays inside. He got a mismatch and he took advantage. But both Barrett and Randle, their passing still isn't good enough to be guys that have the ball in their hands so much on the offensive end. They both turned it over really poorly in situations where you'd expect the lead guy on a competitive team that have a winning record to be able to make.
Yeah, and it's funny because this is like one of those like stats versus reality things, because you look at the box score and you think, all right, 8 assists from Randle, that's pretty damn good. Only 3 turnovers, pretty damn. So in totality, it's not bad. And plus, you look at the usage, and you're giving the ball a little bit more to Randle this game or giving the ball a little bit more to Barrett than Randle. So you're going to blame for having a poor offense. But I think a lot of it had to do with how they're starting their sets, and a lot of the sets that they're starting out with, just having Randle just trying taking an advantage of a mismatch, which wasn't a mismatch. I mean, he was defended by Royce O'Neal, who I guess we know now is able to just neutralize him, because going 7 of 16 on a night where I don't know what he was scoring against Royce, but he was not shooting well against him. They flow a lot, and the Knicks have a tough time getting low to begin with. So in a lot of their sets are starting out with Randle just pounding the ball for 10 seconds, trying to get an advantage in the paint, and then from there, like, you're working with 14 seconds of clock with we're not able to do much off the ball or off the dribble as well. I think that I don't know, how do you solve this with the current roster? I mean, if you had to change how the playmaking was flowing through, who was gonna maybe take the ball more? Do you give it more to Brunson? Does he run the show more? Do you give the ball to Quickly more? I mean, he's not a better passer. Obvious answer here off the bench. I don't know why they don't run more plays with Hartenstein in the high post and running DHOs off. Like, you have a natural playmaker there. So why don't you use that?
Yeah, that he actually had it. He had a few nice plays when they actually gave him minutes last night. So
Yeah.
it's when it works. I don't know why you wouldn't go for it. I think you paid Brunson the money. Obviously, people like to think of him as like a non-traditional point guard, but you got to put the pressure on him to become more of a traditional point guard and be a guy who makes plays for others just as much as he gets to his own spots and gets his own shots. That's why we paid him the money. That's why we brought him in to be that legit playmaker, the guy that you can rely on to make plays for your teammates. And it's not always got to be Julius Randle. Julius Randle's doesn't have to be the point forward as much anymore. He can just do his own thing. Don't get me wrong, the ball's still going to be in his hands a lot. Tibbs is still going to expect the most out of him, but I think Brunson's the guy you got to put the pressure on to have the ball in his hands more and make plays for others.
Yeah, I believe that. But moving on to the last game here, the Lakers and Celtics, which is always a classic, no matter who's in what jersey. Even when it was like the Nick Young Lakers squad, it always feels like a big matchup. Lakers Celtics, so much history there, and I thought it was a great game to cap off the rivalry weekend. Was it just one night? Like, first of all, I gotta say, this has been the worst advertising of like an NBA event ever, because everyone's like, oh, rivalry week, I guess that's the thing now. Like, that I didn't even know that was gonna be a thing until like yesterday, and they're putting it on ESPN. But a great matchup here. What did you before we get to the ending of the game, I thought that overall the Lakers played a good game against who we viewed as, if not the best team, second, third, maybe 1A, 1B. They still feel like the best team in the league to me. You could make a good argument for the Nuggets or another team, but I think the Boston Celtics still hold that title. And they went toe-to-toe with them all night long.
Yeah, absolutely. And screw it. Let's get right into the last play. They should have
oh man
won the game. That was a clear foul. I genuinely believe the Celtics would have got that call. I think they
so?
would have got it. I think 100% that they would have got it. I know it's LeBron James, and you always think he gets all his calls because he's earned that right or whatever, but I genuinely believe the Celtics get that call. It was a terrible miss, and you gotta believe that LeBron is at least going to be able to go 1 or 2 at the line and win the game for the Lakers, and that it could prove a difference maker for the Lakers in their season. Any loss is big for them now. They have to, when they have the opportunities to win like that, they need to be able to take them, and that could come back to haunt them when they're going to try and move up the Western Conference. So it's a big blow. The refs have made some mistakes of late. Obviously, we're all only human. Everyone makes mistakes, but that felt like a really, really bad one. It was a very obvious slap on the wrist.
Yeah, this is going to go down a tangent that I won't go too far in, but I still don't understand in 2023 that we have refs affecting games.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what? I know it's part of the culture. It's part of the game. Like, you have refs, whatever. Like that's part of what the game has always been. You have the same thing in football, even though football is a lot more regulated now. Even though there was still some pretty bad misses. I think Pats fans will agree. There's a few games that you probably should have won this season, but why don't we just have like automated calls? Yeah. Like, that would be so easy. Like, the additional money, even if it was like $1 million a game, like to preserve the product, like, there is no reason why an obvious call with so many angles to call it could not have been like adjudicated by some remote group, or have like AI or something. Dude, I don't know. Like, I'm sure some AI company would love to be sponsored by the NBA and like test out giving calls. Even if you imagine if you did this like just for a year, you had some company like who could develop like a system that would get every call, like 99.99% of calls correct, and let them like just do it in the background or something for a season, and then compare the results every game, because they do these L2M, and the L2M, I feel like it's every other game where the L2M comes out and it's a bad call missed. It's not like it randomly happens every once in a while. Like this game, like totally lost the game. I know for the fact the Bulls have lost 3 games off of L2M calls. So how many games lost per year? And then you compare that, maybe you have another way to do it. But it's crazy to me that with all the technology we have, like we haven't come up with a different way to at least support the refs, if not completely replace them.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right there, and I think I'd be worried if the NBA aren't at least considering something along those lines. But let's get back. Yeah, we'll get back to the game now.
Sorry,
they got they obviously ended up going to OT. It was a great matchup throughout. I think the key came obviously Brown in OT goes off for 11 points. He got red hot. He took control for the Celtics, but I think the kind of key moment in the game, I think it was that the Lakers were up 7 in the third, and LeBron went out, and that was when they made the first comeback. The Celtics, I know they actually made a similar sort of comeback when LeBron was back in, but that kind of felt like the big moment. That if the Lakers had been able to hold on to the lead at that moment and still had a lead when LeBron came back in, I think they would have been able to be comfortable enough to be able to go on and win the game. It was the fact that they weren't able to hold on to that little lead in those few minutes that LeBron was off the floor was a big game changer in this one.
Yeah, it was something that we've seen all year long, is the Lakers not doing the job without LeBron. And Davis had a quiet night. Yeah. He's still coming back from injury. You didn't see him really dominate in the paint. I mean, you got Al Horford there. I mean, he's still a presence, but it was tough to see Davis have a quiet night. They needed him. And I think this is something to monitor. And we mentioned this briefly about the Rui trade. I think that you're going to see this much more often. If you're closing lineups with Rui Hachimura on the floor with AD and LeBron, and you face a team like the Celtics with a dynamic wing, 2 dynamic wings in Tatum and Brown, like he's going to get cooked. Like he just doesn't have the foot speed. He doesn't have the natural position ability to defend wings like that. And you saw Brown just turn him. And every time that they got that matchup, they liked that. So I don't know if that's something to watch. If that defensively is not something that's really tenable for them to keep him in a closing lineup alongside James and alongside Davis. But obviously the whole game didn't come down to that. As a whole, I mean, it came down to the wire. It came down to that last play. LeBron James played 44 minutes tonight, though, last night. That's just not sustainable. That's not sustainable. I mean, I can't imagine like he can just keep doing this. It's insane.
Yeah, but you say there again, we mentioned it. If we see why they need him on the floor when he goes down, you instantly think, "Oh God, what's going to happen to them now?" That's sadly the way that it is. Hopefully, it changes a bit now that AD is back, and when AD gets back to 100%, and hopefully, finally can stay that way for the rest of the season. Then maybe LeBron can play some slightly less minutes. I don't think we're going to see too big of a drop off for him, but. In terms of Hachimura, I think the defense is a problem, but I like the early signs on the offensive end. I think he made a few nice cuts. He had a few nice passes. The chemistry, there's a bit of chemistry there early on, which is good to see, and you hope that can grow from here. But I really think the Boston scoring variety, the different players that were able to step up and make shots, the way they were able to go from 3-pointers to 2-pointers to mid-rangers to dunks to everything. I think that was something the Lakers couldn't really keep up with, and that was something that helped the Celtics get back to winning ways. And they were on the back of 3 straight defeats. That was very very surreal for them this year, and they really needed this one, and they fought hard and they came out on the right side of it, and that's what the best teams do.
Yeah, that being able to have production from Malcolm Brogdon and Derek White when you don't have Marcus Smart, still being able to keep that defensive edge and the playmaking you get from those guys, it's huge, absolutely huge. And the shooting, I mean, tonight they didn't have a great shooting night. Jason Tatum himself went 8 of 25. as a team. They went 13 of 40, which usually on a night when the Lakers are shooting 12 of 42, you're expecting them to lose because of the 3-point deficit. But I think this came down to variety. The Celtics had more answers. They could put the ball in Malcolm Brogdon's hands. He could do something with it. They could put the ball in Brown's. They say Malcolm Brown, Malcolm Brogdon's hands. Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum. You can rely on Al Horford to pick and pop. You can expect Derek White to do something. There's something everyone offered here, and I thought that Russ might step up tonight. Russ has had some really awesome games off the bench this season. This would have been a game for him to do it, but he had a tough shooting night. And to be fair to LeBron, I mean, dude, Dennis Schroeder goes 0 for 5 from 3. Troy Brown Jr., that's your only job. Go 0 for 5 from 3. Shooting open three-pointers. I mean, shooting open three-pointers from the corner, nonetheless. 0 for 4 from Rui. 1 for 3 from Lonnie. Just a tough shooting night for the Lakers. And I think if they could just hit their shots, if they just had some actual shooters, I mean, this is a game that they win. And I think this is really significant. I mean, you look at any box score playing against the biggest teams where LeBron James is scoring like crazy. All it takes is just some guys hitting a modest amount of shots, just being a okay shooter. And they just don't have that. They don't have that. And they need to make a trade. They need to make a trade 3 months ago, 5 months ago. They need to make a trade last year. It needs to happen now. And these are games that should be won. And this should be part of LeBron James's farewell tour as he goes on to make another championship. But instead, we're lamenting the fact that he's playing 44 minutes and still losing games.
Yeah, I mean, they don't even it doesn't have to be that big splash. They get him like a J.R. Smith, KCP type.
Oh God! Why did we have to say J.R. Ronan? we already know the first memory everyone thinks of when you think J.R. and LeBron. It's the last guy he wants to see.
That's what you got. That's what's the type of guys that he can thrive alongside. Guys who can play good defense and can hit their threes. That's all they need. There's guys out there that they can make moves for. If they want to be the Lakers, they just go out and do it. This is what the Lakers do. They go all in to win. That's why we love the Lakers. That's why they've won. They've had so much success because they are always in it to win it all, and they've got to do that again. Well, final point in this, I wanted to say, like, LeBron James is only 117 points now off passing Kareem. I feel like it's so muted. I feel like no one really cares.
Because he's losing. That's what sucks. That's what sucks about this.
It's just...
We should be celebrating that.
We should. Like, when Steph Curry was about to break the 3-point record, everyone was going nuts. People were crying and celebrating before it had even happened. And now LeBron James is about to pass up Kareem. I'm hearing people that are like, oh, it's not going to be as impressive for LeBron to do it because he had the 3-point shot. But why is it not more impressive? Because LeBron is a pass-first sort of player and apparently a terrible shooter. So why is it not more impressive then? What LeBron James is doing, the fact that he's going to pass up Kareem Abdul-Jabbar is absolutely unbelievable. And I know we've kind of become muted to how good LeBron James is. Mm-hmm. Like the only reason that he even if the Lakers were winning this year, he still wouldn't be in the MVP conversation, despite the fact that he's averaging 30, 39 and 6 or something ridiculous like that at 38 years old. Absolutely outrageous. That's one thing you hate. You hate when you see guys just we're too used to how good they are, and you almost go on like they're doing nothing. But what he's doing is unbelievable, and the fact that he's probably 5-6 games away from passing Kareem Abdul-Jabbar for the most points in NBA history is unbelievable, and it needs to be celebrated even more.
Yeah, we'll celebrate it here, even though it's hard to with them losing. That's all we can talk about. Even more reason to make a trade. And that's mine. I will end my Lakers rant here with that. I mean, it's that simple. You said it best. They don't need a splash trade. Give up a pick for Doug McDermott and Josh Richardson. Some people have been talking about it in Lakers circles. I love that idea. It's been a rumor. You get a shooter, you get a two-way player, you get people who are able to actually take shots. Richardson's making upwards of 40%. McDermott, they're both 40% three-point shooters. You just need something like that. These games are winnable games with shooters on the floor next to LeBron James.
Yeah, for sure. Come on, Lakers, make it happen. Even if it doesn't work, you owe it to yourselves, and you certainly owe it to to LeBron James to give it one last try. But I think that's going to do it for this episode. It was fun to talk more ball with you, Chris. I am Ronan Gaine. My thanks to Chris Nambu for joining me. Thank you all so much for listening. And remember, you like what you're hearing, like, subscribe, comment, listen wherever you get your podcasts, watch on YouTube. Follow us on social media. We're everywhere at Coast to Coast NBA. And until next time, remember, take every shot and love every moment.